A pause for breath. The trade war is on hold. For now, the United States and China, the world's two biggest economies, have agreed to a temporary ceasefire in their bitter trade dispute. The news sent shockwaves through global markets, offering a much-needed reprieve from months of escalating tensions. But the big question remains, is this the beginning of the end of the trade war, or just a temporary pause? The trade war, which began in 2025, has disrupted supply chains, increased costs for consumers, and fueled fears of a global economic slowdown. The 90-day pause is a welcome development, but it's important to remember that this is not a resolution. The underlying issues that sparked the trade war remain unresolved. Both sides have deep-seated concerns about each other's trade practices, including intellectual property theft and unfair subsidies. The next 3 months will be crucial in determining whether the US and China can finally bridge their differences and reach a lasting trade agreement. The deal on the table. The agreement, reached during high-level talks in Geneva, Switzerland on May 12, 2025, marks a significant de-escalation in the trade war. Both countries have agreed to roll back some of the tariffs they had imposed on each other's goods. The US has reduced its tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods from 145% to 30%, while China has lowered its tariffs on $110 billion worth of US goods from 125% to 10%. The agreement also includes a commitment from China to increase its purchases of US agricultural products. This is a key concession for President Trump, who has repeatedly accused China of unfair trade practices in the agricultural sector. In return, the US has agreed to suspend its plans to impose tariffs on an additional $300 billion worth of Chinese goods. This temporary truce is a positive step, but it's important to note that the majority of tariffs remain in place. The deal does not address the core issues at the heart of the trade dispute, such as intellectual property theft and forced technology transfer. The agreement is fragile, and it remains to be seen whether it will hold. Global stakes. Why should the rest of the world care about a trade war between the US and China? The answer is simple, because it affects everyone. The global economy is deeply interconnected, and a trade war between the world's two largest economies has ripple effects that are felt far beyond their borders. The tariffs imposed by the US and China have disrupted global supply chains. Businesses around the world that rely on components or materials from either country have faced delays, shortages, and increased costs. This has led to higher prices for consumers and decreased business investment. The trade war has also created uncertainty in the global economy. Businesses are hesitant to make long-term investments when they don't know what the trade landscape will look like in the future. The trade war has strained relations between the US and China, making it more difficult to cooperate on other pressing global challenges such as climate change and nuclear proliferation. The stakes are high for the global economy, and the next few months will be crucial in determining whether the US and China can find a path to a lasting trade agreement. Section 4. The clock is ticking 90 days to reshape global trade. The 90-day pause in the trade war is not just a ceasefire, it's a race against time. Both sides have agreed to use this period to negotiate a comprehensive trade deal that addresses the core issues that sparked the conflict in the first place. But can they do it? The issues on the table are complex and deeply entrenched. The US accuses China of unfair trade practices, including intellectual property theft and currency manipulation. China, for its part, argues that the US is trying to contain its rise as a global economic power. Negotiating a deal that satisfies both sides will require significant compromises. The outcome of these negotiations will have far-reaching consequences for the global economy. If the two sides can reach a deal, it would be a major victory for both countries and for the global economy. However, if the negotiations fail, it could lead to a re-escalation of the trade war, with both sides imposing even more tariffs. Section 5. Markets. Breathe a sigh of relief. Cautious optimism follows tariff truce. The announcement of the 90-day tariff truce sparked a wave of relief and optimism in global markets. Stock markets around the world surged, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average jumping over 600 points or 2% in early trading. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq also posted significant gains, rising 2.7% and 3.7% respectively. The positive reaction from the markets reflects the deep-seated anxieties that the trade war has generated over the past year. Businesses and investors have been on edge, worried about the impact of escalating tariffs on their bottom lines. The truce, even if temporary, provides a much-needed respite from this uncertainty. However, it's important to note that the market's optimism is cautious. The real test will be whether the US and China can use this 90-day window to negotiate a lasting trade deal. For now, though, investors are enjoying the reprieve and hoping that it will lead to a more stable and predictable trade environment. Section 6. The road ahead, towards a trade agreement or back to the brink. The 90-day truce in the US-China trade war is a fragile step towards a more stable global economy. The world is watching with bated breath as the two economic giants enter a critical period of negotiation. The outcome of these talks will have far-reaching consequences, shaping the future of global trade and determining whether we are headed towards cooperation or conflict. The path ahead is fraught with challenges. Deep-seated mistrust and fundamentally different visions of the global economic order separate the two nations. Overcoming these differences will require both sides to demonstrate flexibility, pragmatism, and a willingness to compromise. A successful negotiation, culminating in a comprehensive and enforceable trade agreement, would be a victory for the global economy, ushering in a period of greater certainty and stability. Failure, on the other hand, would be a blow to the global trading system, potentially pushing the world towards a new era of protectionism and economic nationalism. The next 90 days will reveal whether the US and China can overcome their differences and forge a new path for global trade, or whether we are destined to return to the brink of a trade war that nobody can win.